This month on Newton Newsmakers, first we'll chat with Newton Democrat Charles Rudnick, who's challenging Senator Cynthia Cream for the state Senate seat. We'll find out why he's decided to go up against the six-term incumbent. Then, in the second half of the program, we'll get an update on what the city of Newton is doing to honor its veterans with Veterans Service Officer John MacGillivray. Thanks for tuning in. Newton Newsmakers starts right now.
Newton Newsmakers is made possible through the generous support of First Commons Bank, Beacon Street in Newton Center, representing the future of banking with an inviting environment, the latest banking technologies, and a personal touch to make banking convenient, simple, and sensible. Also at firstcommonsbank.com.
Welcome into Newton Newsmakers. It's Newton's local political roundtable discussion program. I'm Charlie Shapiro. The 1st Middlesex and Norfolk State Senate District includes all of Newton, all of Brookline, and parts of Wellesley. This fall, there will be a preliminary election. The winner will be the winner of the office, since there's no Republican candidate, and the winner will hold the office for the next 2 years. Both candidates were invited to appear on the program today. Charles Rudnick is with us. He's challenging six-term incumbent Cynthia Stone Cream for the state Senate seat. Senator Cream had a scheduling conflict and is unable to join us today. That being the case, in all fairness, it's not going to be a debate. It'll simply be a conversation, an opportunity for Mr. Rudnick to introduce himself to the voters of Newton that he hasn't already met. So that being said, welcome to Charles Rudnick.
Thank you,
thanks
Charlie.
for coming into the program.
Thank you for having me. It's delightful to be here.
Great, I appreciate it. All right, so you and Senator Cream, you're both progressive Democrats. You are both pro-choice. Stop me if I go wrong here. All right. You are both against the death penalty, I believe?
Yes.
Okay.
I am anyway.
Okay. And pro-equal marriage opportunity?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm on the right track so far?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, since you hold a lot of the same positions, a lot of the same thought processes on those major issues,
yep.
Where are you different?
Well, Charlie, it's a great question. Where we differ is that I believe the system on Beacon Hill is broken and we need new leadership. This race isn't about left versus right or Republican versus Democrat or who can be the better progressive. Senator Cream and I are both progressive Democrats. What I believe is that we need stronger, more engaged, energetic leadership. I have tremendous respect for the service Senator Cream has provided our district and the vote she's provided on progressive issues. But I think especially in today's world, we need even more. I want to be a full-time legislator who's up there every day, rolling up my sleeves and tackling the tough issues we face thoughtfully and independently.
All right, so there's a lot of different ways that you can get into public service. You were involved with a number of other campaigns for well-known Democrats in Massachusetts. Do you want to outline just a little bit about your background and some of the support that you've received already from some folks that are very well-known?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been, most of my career, in fact, has been devoted to fighting for progressive issues and trying to make a difference. In the political world, I've worked in Washington, and here in Massachusetts, I've worked for Democratic leaders like Warren Tolman, George Bachrach, Mark Roosevelt, all of whom were progressive leaders who ran reform campaigns for governor. I've also helped out Martha Coakley in her race for the U.S. Senate in the fall and other candidates. So I come into it with open eyes. I know what I'm getting into, and I've had some experience, and I think that experience will help me make a difference. I also bring some relevant experience in the international arena, where after the Balkan Wars of the 1990s, I worked overseas running programs to help restore democracy and establish the rule of law in countries like Bosnia, Kosovo, and other areas, because I felt strongly that the world's leading democracy had an obligation to help countries who were trying to become democratic. So I see, when I look up at Beacon Hill and I see a lot of the problems we're facing, I really think that we could use a little bit of democracy building right here at home. So I want to tap into that experience I've had in the public sector, in the private sector, where I've also worked for the past 7 years in the medical device industry, and in the community to try to help tackle some of the tough issues we're facing.
So what are two of the toughest issues right now on Beacon Hill? The Globe did a recent story, as I'm sure you're well aware, about some of the patronage positions in the parole what's the department?
The probation department.
Probation department,
yeah.
Including parole officers and a number of other things.
Exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about your priorities, and does that type of issue play into it, or was that just kind of a one-time flash in the pan sort of thing, or where are you on making changes?
No, in fact, I don't think that was a one-time flash in the pan, unfortunately. I think the problems in the probation department are emblematic of what's wrong with state government and how the influences we see of the money flowing into Beacon Hill from political action committees and lobbyists and other special interests can influence the debate and can distract the legislature from doing what's in the best interests of the people and the voters. On the probation issues specifically, you know, it's interesting. A couple weeks ago, Senator Cream and I had a debate at Newton South High School, and she's chair of the Judiciary Committee. So I pressed her before the Globe articles came out on the probation department, and I called for overhaul of the department, and I called for its return to control by the judiciary. I really think the courts should have the power to oversee their own employees. And I don't know if, you know, all of your viewers are familiar with the fact that it was years ago that the legislature itself stripped any meaningful oversight from the courts of the probation department, and it's been since that time that the problems have really increased with patronage, lack of transparency, and perhaps even criminal misconduct. There's a special master looking into it right now. And I think it's that type of action by the legislature that raises serious questions about their priorities, about how they're making decisions, and about the influences that are affecting those decisions.
Now, so what are some of the other issues? Because we only have a few minutes,
sure.
and just to be fair, I want to, you know, make sure that we kind of not get into a he said, she said type of thing.
Absolutely.
So give me a couple of other issues. If you were on Beacon Hill as of right now, what are some of the things that you're seeing, maybe specifically, that have not been addressed that need to be addressed?
Sure. I think one of the most important issues facing us as a Commonwealth and facing the country, frankly, is the long-term cost of health care reform. Massachusetts has led the nation in expanding coverage. In fact, the federal law that was passed recently was modeled largely on the Massachusetts law that we passed several years ago. But what we haven't done is finish the job by controlling costs. The issue of rising health care costs affects family budgets, it affects small businesses that are being crippled by increasing premiums, and it affects municipalities across the Commonwealth because their health care budgets are increasing as revenues are decreasing. What I think we need is to really roll up our sleeves and tackle the underlying causes of healthcare costs continuing to increase.
Which is what?
Well, we have a lot of different factors that go into that. I applaud the governor for imposing a moratorium on premium increases for certain types of premiums. I also think the Senate took good action in creating, or at least passing a law that would create a one-time fund to relieve premium increases for small businesses. Yet what we really need to do is look at why those premiums are increasing to begin with. And a lot of that has to do with incentives under the current system and how, and the relationship between healthcare providers and the insurers. And there's a Blue Ribbon Commission that was mandated under our healthcare reform law that came out with some great proposals that we need to look seriously at that help shift incentives away from treating people after they get sick towards helping them stay healthy to begin with, and preventative care, and increasing support for the number of primary care physicians to help people keep from getting sick in the first place. So there are some fundamental issues we need to look at.
Now, the area that you'd be covering, the area that the senatorial district covers, is part of Wellesley, all of Newton, all of Brookline.
Yes.
Those are different communities.
Yes, they are.
With different, I'm not sure it's different values necessarily, but it's certainly different priorities in the communities. What is Newton's priorities as compared with Wellesley or Brookline?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been out knocking on doors all across the district. I've been to thousands of doors in Newton, Brookline, and Wellesley. And I do think that there are obviously some local issues that are important to people in the different communities. Here in Newton, people are obviously very concerned with the schools. The school committee recently passed a budget. There are a lot of issues that affect people's day-to-day living in terms of how the municipal budgets are funded, the level of state aid that are provided to communities.
Which is not going up right now, that's for sure.
It is not going up. And I think, again, what people I see across the district are concerned about is how we can better allocate the money that comes from the state to communities. And if we were smarter about how we're making decisions in the legislature, and if we weren't doing things like sending millions of dollars over to the probation department, to a department that really had no meaningful oversight and had all these problems with patronage and lack of accountability, and we could use that money to support increased local aid, to support some education initiatives, and to support other programs that are important to the people all across this district. And I have been hearing from people as I meet them everywhere, that they're frustrated with Beacon Hill. They're frustrated with kind of business as usual, and they're really interested in looking for some new answers and a new direction.